everybody, I'm Rebecca Coles, and this is Rebecca's Garden on DVD. We've put together some of the best stories that we've had over the years to bring you this collection of getting started in your garden. Hopefully it's going to help you and inspire you, and you'll enjoy getting those hands dirty. And if you like this DVD, you'll like the others that we have in the collection as well, including one on roses, flowers, gardening in the summer, gardening in the fall, and look for our holiday edition. Hope you enjoy the show, and until next time, keep those hands dirty. Herbs have been around for thousands of years, and now more than ever, they're popping up in backyard gardens. People are growing them for cooking, cosmetics, even for medicinal purposes. Today, I'm going to show you how to get started growing your own herb garden. The first thing you need is a good site. Herbs like plenty of sunshine, at least 6 hours a day. It also helps if you have well-drained soil. Once you've got those two things, the fun part begins, picking out your plants. There are three classifications of herbs: annuals, biennials, and perennials. First, the annuals. These are plants that die back every year, which means you have to replant them every year. They include plants like your basils and the dill. Then you have the biennials. These are plants that grow for 2 seasons and then die back. That would include plants like the parsley. And then you have the perennials. These are plants that once put in will come back every year. Plants like the chives, the oregano, some of the lavenders. This is important to know because it will help you determine the placement in your garden. Also, you need to remember that each of these plants have different heights. You need to keep that in mind because you don't want the taller plants to block out some of the lower plants. The lower plants are excellent for borders. So the bottom line here is that it will help if you have a design. Whatever design you choose, make sure you sketch out your ideas on paper before you start to plant. And remember, the smaller the space, the simpler the design should be. Once you've completed a scaled drawing, it will be easy to lay it out on the soil. My herb garden measures 12 by 12, which is a pretty nice size. The plan I'm going to use plays off of the quadrant style that I've used in the vegetable garden. Of course, the key with achieving that style is to make sure you get a symmetrical look. And believe it or not, you can do that with a little technique using some string. Let me show you how it's done. First, grab a friend to help you find the center of the garden by pulling the string diagonally between the corners of the plot. Use a stake to attach the string to each corner. You'll notice that the string crosses in the middle of your bed. Mark this center point with another stake. Then, using the center mark as a guide, divide your garden into 4 small quadrants. At this point, we'll attach an additional stake to a string about 1 foot from the center. Then, fill a funnel with bone meal. And while one person uses the stake to define the center circle, the other follows close behind, highlighting it with the bone meal. You should now have the basic outline of your design, which will help you with the placement of your path and your plants. And now we're ready to plant. As you can see, I've laid out all my herbs so I can visualize what the design is going to look like. The center is going to be my focal point. So there I've planted my dill, which is the tallest plant. Now along the path, I've used basil to anchor that, and you can see in the center of each quadrant, I have rosemary. As you can see, my soil is nice and loose. Ahead of time, I amended it with some manure and compost. Now, most of your herbs are sold as transplants. They come in cell packs like this. Gently remove the plastic container, and you'll notice that some of them may be root-bound. Simply tease the roots or tear them apart. Plant them as deeply in the hole as they were in their container. And that's all there is to it. Now make sure you give your herbs plenty of room to grow. Read the directions and space them accordingly. I've got a pretty big job ahead of me, so I'm going to call in a few of my friends to help. Now Now once you've planted your herbs, you want to give them a good long drink. You'll notice that I've added some mulch. This is a cocoa bean mulch which does a couple of things. It helps retain moisture while keeping the soil cool. This will be great during the hot summer. As the plants are growing, don't be intimidated. Just come out and snip a little off here and there, add it to your pastas. You'll be surprised at some of the herbal concoctions you'll be able to create from your own herbal garden. Hi everyone, welcome to the show. You know, some of my favorite plants in the garden are herbs. Not only do they taste great fresh, but if you dry them, you can use them all year round. Now, something to keep in mind when harvesting, you got to get out there early in the morning after the dew has dried. That's when the flavor is most intense. And if you're intimidated about harvesting herbs, don't be. It's really quite simple. All you need is a good pair of scissors and a good basket to carry them. The first plant I'm harvesting is parsley. Parsley grows from the center out, and for plants like this, it's important to harvest from the outside in because this is where all the oldest leaves are. And of course, it's the tops we use on parsley, but to make drying easier, I'm going to cut down on the stem. If you notice blooms on herbs like oregano, remove them. This will help keep the plant actively growing. Since basil is sensitive to cold nights, you can pull out the entire plant if frost is threatening. On the other herbs, just be sure to cut enough stem to make drying easier. The most common method of preserving your herbs is by air drying. It's really quite simple. All you need to do is take a small bunch of herbs. It's important that it is small because you want them to dry as quickly as possible. The larger the bunch, the slower it's going to dry and the more likelihood that you're going to get mold. Simply take a rubber band and attach the bunch together. The next step is very important. The herbs need a dry, dark location, preferably cool. If you have an herb rack, simply attach the herbs with your rubber band right to the rack, and then it's ready to go. Now, something that works well at home that I've used for years is to take a simple coat hanger, attach the herbs to the wire, store it in a closet, and within 10 to 14 days, you should have dried herbs. Now, your best bet for storing your herbs is in an airtight container, one that blocks out the light. And most people, when they store their herbs, crumble the herbs up. However, if you store them whole, it minimizes the amount you touch them because every time you touch the herb, it loses flavor. So store it whole and crumble as you go. Now, another method of drying is with a dehydrator. These can be picked up just about anywhere, especially in kitchen shops. The advantage with a dehydrator is that it dries the herbs in just a matter of hours. It requires a little more work, but it works especially well for the larger, fleshier leaves like this basil. What you need to do is strip the leaves from the stem and lay them flat on the racks. Now, it's important to keep the same type of herb in the oven at one time because all herbs will dry differently and you don't want the flavors to mix. After you've laid out all your leaves on the individual trays, cover up the dehydrator, and in just 2 to 3 hours you'll have dried basil. Microwaving your herbs is an even quicker drying technique that works especially well with parsley. It takes about 1 to 3 minutes to dry a small bunch. You just need to make sure you check it every 30 seconds. It should be crisp to the touch. Now, whatever method you choose to dry your herbs, it's important to try to use the herbs within 6 months because after that they start losing their fragrance and their flavoring. Now, some of those herbs that are hard to dry, like the chives, the dill, and the fennel, you might want to try freezing them. When you use them, they'll taste almost as if they were fresh. The landscape of Rebecca's garden is constantly changing. Every year there's a new project. And this year we decided it was time to revamp our herb bed. This was once the herb bed. It was very overgrown. You couldn't tell one herb from the other. So we ripped most of everything out. We're going to start over. We left a few of the anchoring plants like the chives and the ornamental onions because they look terrific. But now we're going to create a knot garden out of herbs. Like the name implies, knot gardens are plants interwoven like threads in a cloth. Planted correctly, the plants appear to cross over one another, creating a geometric motif. Dating back to the 16th century, knot gardens surrounded the grounds of castles to create a grand entrance. Even rows of hedges were often interwoven to create family crests and monograms. Now, if you've never done a knot garden before, the best advice I can give you is to keep it simple. That way you'll have much more success. So start out by measuring the area and then drawing it on graph paper. That way everything's to scale. And don't forget to add the existing elements, which I've already done here. Then draw in your design. Now, how to get your design into the soil? Well, that's the easy part. All you need is stakes and some string. To find the center of a knot garden, pound a stake in each corner of the garden bed. Then attach string to each opposing stake. The center is where the strings cross one another. Okay, so we found our center point. This is important because everything we do is going to be measured from the center. So I'm going to put a stake here and then finish the design. No matter what design you choose, everything has to be measured out and marked accurately in the soil. In our case, to keep things simple, each stake was placed 4 feet apart. Now, since straight lines are much easier to create than circles, we chose this checkerboard pattern, which is actually a Celtic knot design. All right, so the grid is in place, and now we're ready for the plants. And for that, you want to select plants with different colors and different textures. And also, you don't want really tall herbs. You want something that's low growing and has a mounding habit. So I selected a few, but now I've got to refer to my chart to see where they all go. The outer edge is the parsley. That's the lime green, so I'll put that around the entire outer side. The blue line is for opal leaf basil. That's this purple leaf that is just lovely. The red is going to be for the spicy globe basil, and then the green X here is going to be for sage. So now what I want to do is place the plants before I plant them. Spacing the herbs about 6 inches apart will allow them to grow together quickly. To help figure out how many plants are needed, use the squares on graph paper. For our design, each square represents 6 inches, which makes it easy, 1 plant per square. Part of the success of creating a knot garden or tying it all together is the placement of your plants. Some of the plants should look as though they're going under each other while others will go on top. So anytime you have an intersecting line, you've got to decide which one's under, which one's over. In this case, I want the purple basil to be under. Well, this is not going to work if this one's here because it's the spicy globe that should be over. So I'm going to replace this one with that, and there we have it. Once you've laid out all the plants in the shape of your design, you can remove the string and stakes. And finally, add a focal point. We chose a bird bath placed in the center. Okay, looks like everything's in place. Now I just have to plant all these. I'd be here till next Saturday, so this might be a great opportunity to bring in some of your friends and have them help you tie the knot, so to speak. Once everything is planted, it's time for the mulch. Besides retaining water and keeping weeds out, it provides an excellent contrast, highlighting the design. So there you have it, our Celtic knot is planted. Now I know it doesn't look like much now, but as it grows, it will look terrific. But you do have to do a couple of things. You'll want to pinch back the herbs. That will encourage bushier growth. And take some scissors and be sure to manicure the sides, making sure all the lines are nice and straight. And the best part, you can eat your trimmings. And also to keep the plants very healthy, you want to be sure to fertilize them every other week with a water-soluble fertilizer. A couple months later, you can see how the garden grew into a woven tapestry of herbs. We were very diligent about manicuring the edges with scissors, keeping the lines tightly clipped. In the end, our Celtic knot garden was an aromatic and aesthetically pleasing success. Who says a vegetable garden can't be a work of art? This is my kitchen garden, and nearly everything you see here is edible. And when this comes in and fills in, it's going to look fabulous. This is definitely something you can do, but let me tell you, it's going to require some extra time, a little bit of homework, and some planning. The first step to your kitchen garden is picking a location. Because we're growing flowers and vegetables, the site should receive at least 6 to 8 hours of sun a day. And also it has to be large enough to get that very cool artistic look. Mine's 20 by 20, that should be just fine. Next, you want to amend the soil, and that's very important. We'll till in the 3 magic ingredients: compost, peat moss, and cow manure. Okay, I think that will do it. Now the nice thing about this garden is that I can actually watch it grow right from my kitchen window. Now what I like to do is sprinkle this soil with water. It will allow it to settle and become a little more level. So while the soil is settling and drying, it's a great opportunity for you to get your design on paper. For this step, you need 1/4-inch graph paper, a compass if your design is circular, plus a ruler. Now by using the graph paper, you're able to do everything in scale. For my design, a 1/4-inch square will equal a foot of garden space. Now you can come up with your own pattern like I did, or simply copy one from a book. Just remember, keep it simple. Once you get your design on paper, it's time to transfer it in the garden. Because I'm doing a circular garden, the first thing I need to do is find the center, which I've done here marked with a stake. Now, in order to get perfect circles, instead of a compass, I'm using a stake, string, and a funnel. Fill the funnel with flour or cornmeal. Gently tap the flour onto the soil. This will help create the outline of your pattern, and it's best to start with the outside circle first. And if you choose to create any other circles inside, you can adjust the size by shortening the string. Now this inner circle is going to be the center of the garden. You can see the outline of the garden as well. At this point, I divided the garden into quadrants. You can see I clearly marked it with the stakes. These will help me create the symmetrical design on the inside of the garden. No matter what design you choose, measuring equal distances from each of the stakes is the key to this process. In my case, I marked the center of each quadrant with another stake. This allowed me to make semicircles that eventually overlap each other. This is where the design really starts to take shape in the soil. Okay, now you can clearly see the skeletal pattern of our garden. The next step is to lay out the plants. For starters, choose colorful, low-growing, dense plants that will clearly define the lines as they grow. Flowers like lobelia, alyssum, marigolds, or herbs like sweet basil and parsley make great borders. Besides the plants, I added this bird bath. It'll be a great focal point for the center of the garden. At the base of that, I think I'll plant some chives surrounded by the alyssum. Now in each quadrant of the garden, I'm going to scatter a mixture of vegetables, trying to keep colors together and keep lines together so when it's all finished, it will look like a piece of artwork. Vegetable and herb choices are really up to you. Just keep in mind the texture and the color of the leaves will play an important part in creating the design. Also, be sure to keep specific plants together in groups. And once again, think about creating a pattern with your plants. Okay, now that I've got all my plant material laid out, here comes the hard part, getting all this planted and planted quickly. For that, you may want to call in some of your friends, if you have any. Do I have any friends? Come on, everybody, don't come at once. Now for the final step, I added this cocoa bean mulch. It's important that you leave yourself room to walk through your garden so you can harvest the produce as it grows. From here on out, this is like any other garden. You want to keep it well watered, weeded of course, and don't forget to feed it every 3 to 4 weeks. And in no time, you're going to have a beautiful masterpiece that's good enough to eat. If you suffer from garden withdrawal during the winter months, I have just the fix. How about an indoor herb garden? It's a great way of enjoying the fresh taste of summer during the cold winter months, plus it's an excellent way to get a jump start on your summer garden. Now some of the easiest herbs to grow indoors include thyme, basil, chives, oregano, and parsley. There are 3 ways to grow an indoor garden, either using transplants, stem cuttings, or seeds. Now first let's start with seeds. The materials you need include containers to grow them in. I like to reuse products at home, but you can pick up cell packs at the garden center. It's important whatever you use that they're shallow and they have good drainage. While you're at the garden center, don't forget to pick up a soilless mixture. This is very important because we don't want to weigh the seed down. This is very light, it's very airy. And of course, you need seeds. Now some of the best seeds to start with include basil, cilantro, and parsley. Now the first step is an easy one. You simply want to fill the containers up with soilless mixture. And I like to moisten the mixture after I'm done. This way when I plant the seeds, they won't wash away when I water them. Then it's time to plant. Now as you notice, I've been soaking the larger seeds in water. This will help soften the seed coat and speed up germination. The rule of thumb for planting the seed is that you want to bury the seed 2 to 3 times the diameter of the seed. So something like this cilantro will go down about 1/4 of an inch. It's important to remember that the seedlings must remain moist at all times until they emerge. They also need light and plenty of it. It's best to put the tray in front of a south-facing window. If you don't have that, then you'll need to supply them with artificial light. Fluorescent lights work best. Place the lights about 4 inches above the seedling tray. Keep the lights on at least 12 to 14 hours a day. Now, after about 7 to 14 days, this is what the seedlings will look like. Once you see greenery, it's an indication that the plants need to be fed. You can use a diluted fertilizer or something like a fish emulsion works great. Now, eventually your plants will grow out of their small little containers and eventually will need to be potted up into a larger container. Now, this is just one method of starting herbs. Another very simple way is by using stem cuttings. Now, this works especially well if you have any leftover herbs from the grocery store. Simply remove all the lower leaves from the stem and put that into a jar of water. Change the water daily, and in no time you'll get roots, which is an indication it needs to be potted up in soil. And within a short period of time, you'll have a plant that looks like this. Now, if these two methods seem a little tedious, there's always transplants, which you can pick up at the garden center. They will cost you a little more money, and the same rules apply when growing them. Make sure you give them plenty of light, water, and of course fertilize every other week, and have a pot that has good drainage. When the herbs are about 6 inches tall, they're ready to be harvested. So even though it feels like winter on the outside, tell you what, it smells like summer on the inside. You know, I'm always teaching you how to get your hands dirty. Well, how about I teach you how to get your hands clean with herbs from your garden? We're making soap today on Rebecca's Garden, and don't worry, it's not the hard way. It's the easy way of making soap. All you need is a couple of materials from home and herbs from your garden. Loretta Ellis is a master at making soap. She teaches classes here at the Shady Acres Herb Farm in Minnesota. Thanks for joining us. I'm very excited because you're going to teach us to make soap the easy way.
Exactly.
What do we need?
Well, first we're going to need our herbs.
And these are fresh.
These are fresh herbs. This is my favorite, lavender, and then of course mint. We can also use dried herbs. These are lavender buds. A natural essential oil to improve aroma. A mold of some sort.
Or cookie cutters.
Or cookie cutters.
That'll be fun.
A knife for cutting up soap, a dipper, a spoon,
paintbrush. Oh, that's interesting.
And a grater in case the soap is really hard and we need to grate it.
And you use clear soap.
We're using a glycerin-based soap, and we're warming it in the crock pot. We're melting it in the crock.
I've got about 3 of these, so I'm set to go. All right, what's the first thing we do?
We need to grate the soap.
If you don't have a grater, you can also just cut up the glycerin soap. Then just pop it into a crock pot. Don't stir it. Just let it melt slowly for about 15 to 20 minutes.
While we're waiting for our soaps to melt, we're going to get some aroma to add to the soap. When we put a sheet of soap on here that we can cut out with our cookie cutters, it'll give it a great smell. And this is the rosemary.
Oh yeah, that'll be nice.
Just 2 or 3 drops will do it.
So we swirl it around?
Yeah.
The next step is to pour the melted glycerin onto the plate to cool. Just make sure it's at least 1 inch or 2 thick. Now the soap needs to set up a bit before we use the cookie cutters, and while that's going to take place, you've taken butter molds and we're going to just mold soaps out of this.
Exactly. Now here's where we get to have some fun. We get to use our fresh herbs and our dried herbs to add color and appeal to our soaps.
And a little bit of texture. Now I see it's shiny, so you've sprayed like a cooking oil or something on it?
Exactly. We've put cooking oil on it, and if you want to put some
fun stuff,
lavender into one.
How about a little lavender and mint? That'll be a little shocking, won't it?
Well, yeah.
Cool down, get up.
Calm but alert.
I like that. Once the herbs are in place, don't forget you'll need to add a few drops of scented oil. Then slowly fill up each mold with the melted glycerin. Now for a more decorative touch, try adding a flower in the center of the soap. I can't wait to see what these are going to look like. You know, and you could get the kids involved and put little trinkets in the center, little toys.
You bet.
Oh, they'd have a ball. All right, now we put the molded soaps in the refrigerator so they'll set up quickly. Now we get to cut out cookies of soap.
Exactly.
Probably want to wash these when you're done. Okay, just push them down.
Exactly.
As you cut out the soaps, keep in mind you can always remelt the leftover glycerin to make more soap. And don't worry if your shapes aren't perfect when you pop them out. A damp sponge will smooth out the edges. Now, not only do these look good, but they smell so nice. But you've got great ideas to add decorative touches to otherwise plain soaps.
Exactly. Here are all handmade natural soaps that have been bought, and then we added pressed lavender, pressed rosemary, and what we're going to do is take a little bit of our glycerin soap and coat it over the top.
So it's just like glue?
Exactly.
Oh, how nice. Well, it looks like the soap is done. It's already hardened up, so shall we take a look at it?
Let's pop them out. Okay.
Oh, look at that. That is fabulous. Oh, Loretta, these are beautiful, and how easy it was to make these. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. Herbal soaps, what a great reason for getting your hands dirty. The popularity of growing herbs has really taken off the last several years, and what better way to enjoy those herbs than in a hanging basket located right outside your kitchen door. Now here's the materials you'll need. First of all, a large wire basket about 18 to 20 inches. We'll want to line the basket, so you can either buy coconut liners or you can make your own using sphagnum moss. This is what I like to do. You want to make sure you buy unmilled sphagnum moss. You'll need a variety of herbs and then a good potting soil. Now the first thing you want to do is get a good bucket of water and put the sphagnum moss in there. The moss will soak up the water and it'll make it nice and pliable. We're going to squeeze out all the water and then we'll line the basket. Start out by lining the bottom of the basket first with generous amounts of moss. You want it to be about 1 inch thick. Now as you work your way up the sides, be sure to firmly press the moss into the holes and around the wires. This does two things. It secures the moss around the wires while removing the excess water. Now this is what the basket will look like when we're finished. It looks really nice and it smells good. The next step is to add soil. We're going to go ahead and add it until the basket is about half full. Now at this point we're ready to add the plants. It's best to separate your plants in 3 different categories. First we have the uprights. These go into the center of the pot, will give us some height. I'm going to use some sage and some rosemary. The filler plants are good for filling up spaces. Plants like basil, parsley, and chives work well. And then we have the trailing plants. These cascade over the side and give it kind of the romantic look. I'm going to use oregano and sweet marjoram. The trailing plants will be the first ones to go into the basket, but we don't want to plant them on top to cascade over. We're going to kind of cheat here. What we want to do is plant them on the side so that they cascade down and fill up the basket. So the trick here is to drill out a hole with your finger, remove the moss, and then take your trailing plant. Notice we've got 2-inch pots. This is real important with the trailers because we want a small root ball so we can get it through the hole. So very gently remove it from the pot and get rid of some of the soil and go ahead and tease the roots just a little bit so we can manipulate them. And then from the outside in, we're going to push the plant through so that it cascades over the side. Now once you get the plant in position, make sure you close off the hole with more moss. That will help anchor the plant. We'll continue adding the trailing plants around the outside, then we'll add more soil, add the uprights and the fillers. And now it's time to add the rest of the plants, but before we do, we want to fill the pot with the rest of the soil and then plant the other plant material as you would any hanging basket, just scattering it around the top. Now you can go ahead and separate the plants as you put them in the soil. I like to keep them together, that way it's easier to harvest. Your herb basket will do best if hung in a sunny location. Make sure you keep it watered, and when temperatures get warm, it may mean watering at least twice a day, and don't forget to fertilize every other month. Now this looks a little sparse, but just in a couple of months, this will look like this. Herbs ready for harvest right at your fingertips.
Fresh herbs have people saying goodbye to bland meals and hello to fresh flavor. Flavor that can be freshly picked right from your patio if you grow your own. And you can do that with this project. Think of this as 2 hanging baskets in one. They're actually attached. It's a fun project. What you'll need for this are 2 wire baskets. They come in a variety of different sizes. You can pick and choose whichever one you want. You'll need some sphagnum moss, which has been soaked in water, a variety of different herbs. And for this project, really the best herbs are the creeping herbs like the oregano, thyme, even parsley. Water polymers, which will help conserve water and keep the plants hydrated. You'll need some plastic ties and of course some soil. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is line the baskets with the sphagnum moss.
As you work, make sure to squeeze the moss around the wire so that it will dry into place. Also keep in mind that the moss is going to shrink when it dries, so make sure you use a lot.
Okay, this basket is done, so we'll do the same thing to the second wire basket.
Once the wire baskets are completely lined with moss, go ahead and poke your hand around the inside. If a finger slips through a hole, simply patch it up with additional moss. Now we're ready to put everything together. Think of this like creating a layer cake. First, we'll add some soil, sprinkle in fertilizer, water polymers.
We're now ready for the plants. Simply remove it from the container, and we're going to take the root ball and kind of just smush it into place so that we can insert it through a hole that we're going to poke out with our fingers and gently push it into the soil.
Push the plant deep enough so that only the crown peeks out of the moss. Then stuff moss around the crown to help anchor the plant into place. And if the roots of your plants are tangled, you can simply tease them apart. This allows their feet to spread. Try to keep the same types of herbs clustered together. This will make them easier to identify, and they tend to look better in masses.
Now once you've finished poking and planting the herbs, you want to top it off with soil. Make sure you press it firmly to keep everything intact. Then push the baskets together, and then with one of these plastic tie wraps, we're going to attach one side of the wire baskets together. Now comes the tricky part. We have to flip these two together. So what I'm going to do is take a piece of cardboard, lay this across the top. That will hold everything into place. Are you ready? 1, 2, boom! There you go. Now just slide the cardboard out. And then we're going to attach the wire with the plastic ties all around the perimeter.
Then you can touch up your globe by stuffing a few more plants in the top and bottom.
Once you're finished with the final touches, then it's ready to be hung. And for that, we picked up this little S-hook. Just weave it through the top or the bottom of the basket, and then this is ready for hanging. You'll want to put this in a sunny location, keep it well watered, and in some cases, you might have to water it twice a day. In about 3 weeks, the herbs will be ready to be snipped to spice up your table. Hope you enjoy. All season long, I show you how to grow herbs, but what do you do once you're ready to harvest them? Well, we invited the herb lady of Minnesota to the show today, Bonnie Dean. She grows herbs for a living. You've got great tips on, first of all, cooking, but you tell me that most people don't harvest them enough.
Oh, absolutely. Pots all over the place and they're overgrown. Let's take and use those herbs. That's the purpose of those pots, yes. What you want to do is you want to make sure you take the first 8 leaves on any branch of most herbs.
Okay.
So you just cut. That way it branches out and continues to grow healthy and just makes a
So you don't want them to get big and bushy.
You don't want to grow real tall.
Okay. You've got great ways of implementing them into daily recipes.
Yes, quick and easy.
The first recipe we're going to do today is a cinnamon basil chicken salad. Now, cinnamon basil and chicken, that seems a little off, but you say it's delicious.
You can use any type of basil, but my favorite is cinnamon basil. It has an allspice flavor,
Really?
and it's phenomenal.
Okay, so what do we need for ingredients?
Cinnamon basil, onion chives or chives, red grapes, and low-fat mayonnaise.
And of course, chicken.
And chicken.
For the base.
First, add some sliced basil to the cooked chicken. Then a few chives, the red grapes, and finally the low-fat mayo. Once everything is mixed together, season with a dash of pepper and serve on a bed of red lettuce. That's as easy as it gets. Now this next recipe is great for those who love to grill and for those who like to kick it up a notch, as my friend Emerald would say. It's a grilled calypso shrimp using Cuban oregano. And you've probably seen these in hanging baskets or planted right in the garden, but this is an herb and it's a tasty herb.
It's light and lemony and it's great mild oregano flavor.
Yeah, it's really nice. So what do we need for this one?
Jalapeno peppers, shrimp, red peppers, pineapple, skewers, Cuban oregano, olive oil, pineapple juice, and roasted garlic.
Make the marinade by first mixing together the olive oil, pineapple juice, oregano, garlic, and jalapeno peppers. Then assemble the shrimp, pineapple, and red pepper on a skewer. All right.
And now we'll just drizzle the marinade over there. And you have to put this in the refrigerator for about 10 to 15 minutes to let the flavors soak into the shrimp and the pineapple.
Ooh, it looks really good.
Isn't
and
it
smells delicious. After the shrimp is marinated, then just grill the skewers about 6 to 8 minutes on each side. And it tastes as good as, oh wow, this is excellent.
Isn't that great?
Oh, very, very nice, but not too spicy.
No, just enough.
Very nice. Okay, what's for dessert?
Oh, we have something fantastic for dessert.
And for those of you who are chocoholics, you are going to love this recipe. It's simple brownies with a mint twist.
Yes, it's chocolate mint, and it's so easy. 1/3 cup of chopped leaves, stem, and all from the chocolate mint. Throw it right in your favorite brownie mix.
That's all there is to it. Perfect combination. And of course, you've all heard about putting mint leaves in your tea or your lemonade, but you have a better idea.
Pineapple sage.
Ooh, with
Phenomenal,
lemonade. I bet
yes.
that's really nice. Well, Bonnie, you have outdone yourself. You have prepared a wonderful meal for our crew, so sorry to hate to make you leave, but I think we're ready to break for lunch. Herbal vinegars have been around for a long time. We use them to marinate our meats, toss them on salads, or even make a pasta salad out of them. However, the ones you buy in the store may not always suit your needs. Well, not to worry, because today I'm going to show you how you can bottle your own blend. There's not a lot of materials you need to make these herbal vinegars. First of all, you need a clean, sterilized glass bottle. You can either buy them or simply dig through your recycling bin, any old wine bottle, or look at this juice bottle. That will work just fine. You'll also need vinegar. I have found that white wine or red wine vinegar works best, plus it's the easiest to find in supermarkets. Then you need a variety of herbs and spices and some fruits, depending on the concoction you want to make. I'm going to show you how to make 3. The first one is a citrus fruity blend vinegar. I'm going to start with this bottle, which has already been sterilized, and the first thing I'm going to do is put raspberries on the bottom. Start off by gently pushing the fruit in the bottle and try to be careful not to squish the raspberries because they look much prettier when they're whole. Then snip off some mint, stuff that in. This is pineapple mint. Now add thin slices of oranges and also a slice of lime cut in half. As you continue adding more mint and oranges, you may find you need a skewer to help push the ingredients into the bottle. The idea is to fill it up as much as possible. Now that we've got the fruit and the mint packed in, here's the simple part. Open up a bottle of white wine vinegar, get a funnel, and pour the vinegar in. Now we'll just put the cap on. And believe it or not, we are finished. Now, it's going to take about 2 weeks for the flavors to really infuse, but I notice within 24 hours you're going to be able to taste a delightful vinegar. Now, this is just one way. This is the citrus fruity variety. Now, let me show you how to add a little more spice. How about a spicy herbal variety? Now for this vinegar, I'm going to put together a variety of herbs, including rosemary, oregano, thyme, I'll try some garlic, tricolor peppercorns, red chilies, and of course a slice of lime. The first step is to line the bottom of the bottle with the tricolored peppercorns. Okay, that looks good. Now we will start packing the bottle full of herbs. I'm going to start with the rosemary here. We'll put this in and gently push it down, and if it seems not to go in smoothly, just twist it and it should go right in. Now we're ready to add lots of thyme. And don't forget a sprig or 2 of oregano. Then you can add the hot chili peppers. The amount really depends on how spicy you want your vinegar to be. Next, we'll add a couple cloves of garlic, stuff in more thyme and rosemary, And to top things off, how about a thin slice of lime? All that's left is filling the bottle up with white wine vinegar. Now just add the cork. They're done. Look how beautiful this is. Now this is a little peppy, so it might be good to marinate your chicken or your beef in. Excellent for a stir fry. The next blend is an Italian blend. Here I'm going to use a variety of herbs, including oregano, basil, some parsley, a little bit of thyme. We could all use thyme. Some julienne peppers, garlic, tricolor peppercorns. And for this vinegar, I think I'm going to use the red wine vinegar. Of course, I got a great bottle for this one. And now we just do the same layering process all over again. Keep in mind, these vinegars should be stored in a cool, dark location and should be used within 6 months. That way, they'll taste as good as they look. These herbal vinegars are great gift ideas. They look beautiful as is, but if you want to add a tag, you can do that. But look around the house and try to reuse something you already have. Here we've taken some paper, torn the edges, added some ribbon, a little dried fruit, a great tag. Or a calligraphy pen, right directly on the bottle. Or if you use a jar that has an unfavorable lid that's not so pretty, just take some handmade paper, add a little bow, and look at that, it can't be beat. Whatever you choose, these herbal vinegars are a great way for you to share a piece of your garden in a bottle. There's nothing like the fresh taste of basil. It's definitely one of the most popular herbs grown. From pesto to pizza, there's a basil for everyone's palate. I think you'd be surprised to find out just how many different varieties of basils there are. Certainly one to suit your culinary need. But typically they're divided into 4 different categories. The first is known as the sweet basil. This basil is used in Italian cooking and is the staple for pesto. Second, we have the purple leaf basils. These look beautiful in gardens. They're not quite as flavorful. Typically they're best in a tossed salad, but they're excellent if you want to use them to tint vinegars. If you're a connoisseur of Indian or Asian foods, the Thai basil is just for you. It's beautiful to look at, but the scented leaves are nice and pungent and will add an extra kick to any dish. And finally, we have the scented basils. For instance, we have cinnamon, lemon, lime, and even licorice. Now, because of their flavor, they're better suited in fruit salads. And no matter which basil you grow, the rules for planting are the same. Now, the best area for your basil bed will be a location that gets full sunshine and has well-drained soil. And if you can, it's always a good idea to enrich the soil with a rotted cow manure, compost, or peat moss. Now, the one thing you have to understand with basil, they're very sensitive to cold conditions. So before you plant it, make sure that your overnight lows are consistently above 50 degrees and that the soil temperature is about 65. How do you know that? Take a look at the chives. If they're in bloom, it typically means that soil temperatures are warm enough. But just to be sure, you can invest a few dollars in a soil thermometer, pop that in, read the temperature. It says that mine's about 75, so the basil's ready to be planted. You can plant basil 2 ways, either by using transplants, which you pick up at the nursery, but the one thing you want to remember is that you slowly introduce these to the sun. That's called hardening off. Otherwise, they'll wilt the first day. The rules are the same. You plant them as deeply as they are in the container. The benefits of planting basil from seed is that you get a wide variety of basils to choose from. These can be started 6 weeks before your last frost, or just wait till temperatures are warm enough and you can plant them outdoors directly in the soil. If you sow your basil seeds directly, spread the seed thickly and press them into the soil. And be sure to use a gentle spray when watering because basil seeds are so light and tiny they'll literally float away. And once the plants are established, keep them well watered, especially during the hot summer days. And don't forget to give them a shot of fertilizer at least once a month. Now, once the plant is about 10 inches tall, feel free to start using the basil in the kitchen. You get to enjoy the flavor, but more importantly, by pinching it back, you're going to make the basil bushier so there's more of it for you to use. So don't be shy. Use your hands or grab a pair of garden shears. Now, one thing to keep in mind as temperatures get colder toward the end of the season, basil will be the first plant to go. You hate to waste the whole plant, so let me show you a technique that works wonderfully for me. You can enjoy basil right through the winter season. All you need to do is harvest the leaves, whether it's the whole plant or just a couple of stems, place them into a Ziploc bag, put this in the freezer. They will freeze immediately. Once they're frozen, smash the basil, it crumbles up, roll it up, keep it in the freezer. You can continue to enjoy pesto or pizza, whatever it is, right through January. Growing herbs indoors is a great way to keep your garden growing all winter long. The herbs taste good, they smell good, and with a few clips and twists, you can turn them into terrific topiaries. I know it may look a little complicated, but I think you'll be surprised to find out just how easy these are to make. Now, to make your topiaries, you need herbs. Just stop by your garden center and you'll see a wide variety coming in all different shapes and sizes. Some of the best herbs that work for topiaries include rosemary, lavender, trailing thyme, myrtle, and Santolina. We're going to start off with the rosemary because it has a woody stem. So with a few clips, eventually this is going to look like this. So here's what you'll need to get started. First of all, you need some stakes, pruners, something to tie the plant with like raffia. Then we're ready to get started. Now the first thing you want to do is take the stake and insert it into the center of the plant. Now obviously this is a little bushy, so in order to get it to look like this, we're going to trim off the outer stems of the rosemary. Okay, at this point, if you want to create a single stem standard, then you need to remove all the stems, leaving one. In my case, you can see I left 4. And the reason I did that, I thought it might be fun to wind the stems around the stake to get a braided look. In either case, what you want to do is kind of figure out where you want the ball to start developing. Everything below the base of that ball needs to be removed so we have a bare stem. Carefully pinch off the excess foliage. That way you won't strip the stem. Now you can use your fingers for this, or pruners will work fine too. Okay, that looks good. Now we're ready to wind. Begin by braiding the stems around the stake. Then use raffia to tie off the top right below the topiary ball. Finally, snip off the excess stake with your pruners. Now obviously it's going to take some time for this to look as nice as this, in fact about 6 months to a year. And in order to get this nice round ball, we have to be real prudent with the pruning. So what we want to start off by doing is take the top together and just snip it off. Now by doing this, it's going to send energy back down through the plant, so it's going to get nice and bushy. If you get any new growth along the stem, make sure you remove the foliage. And as far as the base goes, if you want to leave rosemary down at the bottom, you can. Otherwise, slowly prune that out as well. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this is one technique that works great to create a standard with the woody stems. But if you have a plant like this thyme that has the trailing stems, of course not strong enough to make the standards, then for this one, you'll need a form. Now making this kind of topiary is really quite simple. All you need to do is wind the thyme around the form and then using floral wire, this is 12 gauge, simply very lightly secure it to the form. Now, if your thyme doesn't quite make it around the entire form, don't worry about it. Eventually it will grow into the form. Just remember to keep winding the thyme as it grows. Now, if you notice on the base, I removed all the extra stems, and what I'm going to do is add a little moss at the base. That way it will set up the topiary beautifully and it gives it a nice finishing touch. Now this is just one way of doing a topiary with a form. If you want a classic globe look, you can pick up the form and eventually your plant will look like this. So now I've shown you how to make a topiary. The trick is keeping it alive. So here are some tips to help you out. Now watering is the most important factor. Just don't overdo it. In fact, it's better if you keep the soil slightly on the drier side. Now make sure your topiary gets lots of sun and rotate it often to keep the shape looking full and healthy. And finally, continue pruning to encourage new growth. And don't forget to save those trimmings. These are great in the kitchen. Herb topiaries, what a great way to spice up your life in more ways than one. You know, you'll never know the true taste of garlic until you grow your own. Fall's the time to plant it. And there's probably no one that knows more about the subject than Chester Aaron from Sonoma County, California. In fact, in these parts, he's known as the garlic guru. Chester Aaron is a retired English professor who seeks to enlighten garlic lovers everywhere about the many delights of the clove. You know, the one thing we have to set straight is that not all garlic tastes the same, looks alike. People think you go to the grocery store and that's what garlic is, but that's not the case.
That's not the case, although only in the last few years have people discovered that there are other garlics, farmers markets, growers like myself, who have about 10, 15, 20, 30, 80, 100 varieties of garlic. They're all different, and people are learning about them. If you buy garlic for the table or to grow, press the bottom at the base, and you will find, sometimes you will find it mushy at the bottom. You don't want that. You don't want it mushy at the top. But if it's a good, firm clove, and it's not yet begun to sprout, some of them have, that's when you want to take the plant.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and plant these.
Okay.
So what do you amend your soil with?
Grape pumice, sand, gravel, and then my own compost.
Now, you raise your beds for drainage.
And also so that the gophers stay out.
Okay, and you've got this drip irrigation system, which is excellent. But what about people at home who may not be able to do a raised bed or have the drip irrigation? Can they still successfully grow?
Absolutely.
garlic?
You can grow garlic in any kind of soil, almost any kind of soil, and just with regular watering.
Just has to be well drained. If
Well
you've got
drained.
clay, you've got to
have to keep it moist right up through the harvest.
Okay, so we're going to do this in your bed. What's the first thing we need to do?
First, we have to put down paper.
Okay.
That helps keep the weeds under control.
Okay, so now you're watering?
Yeah. I water it so that I hold the paper down when the wind blows, and it's easier to put the holes in for the cloves.
Okay, now the hole you've got here is how deep?
It's, I have it so that when I put the clove in, there will be about 2 inches of soil above it.
Okay.
And I'm putting the clove in with the base down, flat base
Right.
down, tip up.
Okay. So these are spaced about 6 inches apart, I see.
I like to keep about 6 inches around each clove.
Okay, now tell me, for colder climates, is the planting technique the same?
Same thing, except that in colder climates you'll want more mulch on top.
Okay, now this is the final step.
Right.
What are we putting on here?
This is a mulch made of turkey manure and cedar chips.
Okay.
And it helps keep the soil and the paper wet. And it also helps keep down the weeds.
And it provides them with a little extra
That's right.
nutrients.
And I'd put about 2 inches here, 2 inches deep, but in colder places you'd want anywhere from 4 to 6 inches.
If you don't have turkey manure nearby, use compost or rotted cow manure. At harvest time, bring your bulbs indoors to a cool, dry place. Now here's where you're curing your garlic. Why is this important?
Well, when you take the garlic out of the ground, it has a lot of water in it. I cure it, hang it here, cure it, dry it for 2 to 3 weeks. It loses about 30 to 40% of its water. And that's when the taste is most intense.
So in the beginning, they all taste alike.
That's right.
And it's
That's
not
right.
until they're cured
That's
that the
right.
flavors
That's
come out.
right.
Oh, and we're usually harvesting this, what, July?
I harvest in July, anywhere from July to early to mid-August.
Okay. And tell me about the different kinds of garlic you have here. What's going to store best?
I have 2 kinds of garlic, what is called hardneck and softneck. The hardnecks do not store as well as the softnecks, but they have a greater span of tastes. The softnecks will last longer on the shelf, but they don't have much span.
Boy, we're growing garlic for the taste, so
That's right.
might as well
So you
go for
want
the
to
hard
that's
neck.
right.
Speaking of taste, you have many different varieties, and you're
right.
going to prove to me that there is a difference.
That's right.
Let's go try it out. Now, Chester, it looks like you've been busy in the kitchen. What do we have here?
I have made 4 hummuses in 4 different bowls, and in each bowl I have pressed a different garlic.
The flavors range from mild to smoky to really, really hot. Not bad, not bad.
That's right.
Huge difference. Huge difference. And that's what people need to know. By growing their own, they can really get a great
Tremendous
selection.
spread of taste. Right.
You have been a breath of fresh air. Thank you.
One of my favorite herbs in the garden is chamomile. Not only do I love the way it looks outdoors, but I love the many uses indoors. In fact, we can make a tea that is not only good for your health, but believe it or not, good for your hair. Here's what you need. First of all, some dried chamomile and a pot of hot boiling water.
Okay, first we're going to measure out a 1/4 cup of the chamomile flowers, and we're going to put that into a jar or a container with a lid. Now the next step is to add 2 to 2.5 cups of boiling water over the dried flowers. And it's important that the water is hot. That way it releases those essential oils from the flowers. Now it's real important to cover this up so it traps the heat. We'll let this steep until it cools down. In the meantime, you can get yourself a container, and here's an excellent idea. If you have any plastic water bottles or juice bottles, they work great because they're plastic for the shower, and they have these cool spouts that are excellent for application of the hair rinse. Now what you need to do is take a funnel, put it in the container. We need a coffee filter because we're going to strain the tea. Don't want bits of chamomile in your hair. So just pour it in. Now just apply this like you would any hair rinse, and you'll get golden highlights if you're a blonde.
You can practically smell these beautiful gardens. Gardening is good for the nose. Gina Palandri certainly knows that. In fact, you could say she has a nose for gardening. It's her job to make sense from the garden. She says one whiff of a rose, lavender, or even citrus can affect your mood. It's called aromatherapy.
So what is aromatherapy,
It's
Gina?
therapy by scent. Basically, it is part of our olfactory system, and how our olfactory system and our responses and our emotions all come out when we smell things.
And I mean, does it really work?
Well,
Really?
it works very well, just like when you smell garlic and you think about Italian food.
I just
It
wanna
works the
eat.
same principle.
Okay, so you're saying if I came home from a really bad day, you've got something here that
That will
is
either-
going to help me feel better.
Either calm you or perk you up or sedate you.
I love that.
Or make you feel sexy or any of those things.
Oh, I like that one too. And typically what you use is what's called essential oils.
Essential oil, yep. Well, they're an oilless base, actually. It's a liquefied vapor that evaporates very fast, and also they are very volatile.
And it comes from flowers
Comes
and
from pure
herbs.
plant material.
Okay,
Yep.
so a little bottle like this is completely concentrated.
Concentrated.
We
Less
don't
is
want to
more.
use the whole thing.
Right.
And when we mix these up to, say, make massage oils or in a mister, you've got oil here.
We have a carrier oil here. We also have an atomizer or a mister, which is a very good way to disperse them throughout your house.
Okay.
Either on yourself, either on your linens, or around the house.
Okay, and you said we must use glass.
Definitely, it's a better
And
carrier
how
for it.
many drops of oil?
Probably 5 drops in that container.
So it's 1 to 10.
Yep,
So-
10%.
So really not a lot.
Right.
Okay, so screw that on, shake it up, and let me try it out.
Now you're totally absorbing lavender through your system and your skin, and you'll feel very calm
And like I need a nap.
and like you'll want to take a nap.
Oh, that's nice. Now, you can use oils, you can use water. Typically, people think of it as putting it on their body.
Definitely.
But we can use this around the entire house.
You can use it on everything in your house.
Lou, let's take a look. Okay, Gina, you're doing laundry. This worries me.
Well, Rebecca, this is a great way to use essential oils. You can
Really?
use them on your wet towels and your socks before you put your clothes in the dryer.
And you just take the drops and drop them right on.
Absolutely, but you want to use a clear essential oil, and you want to maybe use either lavender if you want to do sort of an herbaceous smell, or
Okay.
peppermint if you want a clean smell infused through your whole load.
How many drops?
Probably about 10.
Really? And this won't stain.
It will not stain.
Ah,
and once you start doing this, you'll become completely addicted to the scent of essential oils in your
Really?
laundry.
Ooh, let's give it a whirl. I can't wait to smell the results.
A great way to start your day is to use essential oils in the shower. All you have to do is put a few drops on the shower floor before you get in. Turn the water on and it evaporates up
And what would
towards
you use?
I would use grapefruit or tangerine or peppermint to really wake you up.
Oh, that's a great idea. And you just sprinkle it on.
Right on the floor.
Now, I know a lot of people are thinking essential oil slippery.
Right. But essential oils aren't really oils, they're liquefied vapors, so they evaporate very fast.
So you're not going to slip
Not
and
at
slide.
all, no.
Oh, I like that.
It's a wonderful way to start your day.
Oh, you bet.
And if you have the luxury of taking a bath, this is a great way to use essential oils. But a lot of people don't really know like how much to use or when to add the essential oils to the bath water. And the best thing to do is to draw your bath first and wait till right before you get in to add your essential oils, and then add 8 or 10 drops of essential oils to the water and swish it around.
And why do you wait until after?
Because they're so volatile that they evaporate so fast, and if you put them in
sure.
too soon, they'll all be evaporated by the
that
time
makes
you
sense.
get in.
And you also have this lovely candle. We've got a copper pot. It has what, water and oils on
Essential
top?
oils. It's actually called a candle source diffuser. And how it works is the copper well holds water, and you add just maybe 3 or 4 drops of essential oils to it, and it heats up very slow and even, and it makes your whole bathroom become very aromatic.
Oh, you can smell it. It's really lovely.
Okay, here's another great diffuser to use in the bedroom. It's an electric fan diffuser.
Nice.
All you have to do is pull the tray out and add a few drops of essential oils to the cotton pads and close it up, and you can run it all night and you don't have to worry about it.
Oh, I like that.
This is a body oil or a massage oil that's really nice to do right before you go to sleep. If this is all too much and you don't have time to do this and you want to go right to sleep, you can use the mist we just made.
And this has lavender in it.
Lavender and
Just
some
spray
other
it on the
essential oils.
linens.
Spray it on your linens, your pillowcases, your robes, your bedclothes. There's a lot of wonderful ways to use essential oils in your bed, and using things like lavender is very relaxing, very, very, very sedating. You can also use marjoram and chamomile, and clary sage helps to promote dreams. Rebecca? Rebecca?
Herbal breads are very popular. In fact, you can just pick one up at the bakery. However, I've got a very simple recipe so that you can make your own at home. Here's what you need. Stop by the grocery store, pick up some frozen bread dough. You'll need cooking spray, a bread pan, egg white, and of course, herbs. The first thing you want to do is to coat your pan with a nonstick cooking spray. Then you're going to put the loaf right inside the pan. Now this is frozen, so I'm going to cover it up, and it's going to take about 4 to 7 hours to rise. Now this is what the bread will look like once it is risen. The dough should rise just above the bread pan. The next step is to coat the top with a mixture of egg white and a little bit of water. This acts as sort of a glue for the herbs, but also it brings out a beautiful golden color when it's baked. With a pastry brush, apply a thin coat of egg wash. Then dip your herbs into the wash and carefully arrange them on top of the bread. Now try to work quickly because the egg whites dry fast. Now for added flavor, I sprinkled on a top coat of coarse salt. The next thing you want to do is bake it in an oven at 350 degrees for 20 to 25 minutes. And this is what you get, herbal bread that not only looks good, but tastes great. So the next time you're invited to somebody's house for dinner, tell them you'll bring the herbal bread. They'll think you baked all day. So here's the deal. You're invited to a party, but you have to bring the appetizers. Not to worry, I have a very simple, tasty appetizer that everybody will rave about. All you need to do is get yourself a block of softened cream cheese. Use some fresh or dried herbs, chopped green onion, some lox or smoked salmon, some toasted baguettes or crackers, a little bit of lemon juice, salt and pepper, a good personality, and you're set to go. To the softened cream cheese, I'm going to add about a teaspoon of dried herbs. These are herbes de Provence. Okay, now I'm going to salt and pepper to taste. So add a little bit of salt, grind in a little bit of pepper, and just mix it up. Now this is a good base for the cream cheese, but feel free to add other ingredients to enhance the flavor. Just make sure you let the cream cheese sit for a couple of hours so you get the best flavor. Now we're going to spread the cheese on the baguettes. Then you'll want to cut thin strips of your salmon, drape it over the toast, then top it off with some chopped green onion. And finally, add a little bit of garnish. I like to use thyme or parsley. Then squeeze some fresh lemon juice over the top, but wait until you get to the party to do that, otherwise the bread will get soggy. So there you go, a very easy recipe that everyone will love. I'm always looking for ways to bring the garden into the kitchen, and today I want to show you a very simple, tasty ravioli recipe that takes advantage of your fresh herbs and any of your tomatoes. Here I've chopped up some basil, I sun-dried my tomatoes, and then I've got a grated cheese. This is Parmesan, but you could use Romano or even mozzarella. Then stop by your produce section of the grocery store and pick up wonton wrappers. Place them on a cutting surface. I'm going to add a pinch of my basil, a sun-dried tomato, and a nice hefty portion of cheese. Then I want to moisten each side of the wonton wrapper. Then take another one, place it on top, and that moisture is really going to help glue this together. That's real important because we don't want anything falling out as it's boiling. Then we want to, once again, apply more water, fold over the top, and make this very tight. This is a tight pillow. Do this around the entire ravioli. And once this is finished, we'll pop this into a pot of boiling water, cook it for 1.5 minutes, let it drain. Then simply take the raviolis and arrange them on a platter. You can drizzle olive oil, maybe a few toppings of the cheese and the sun-dried tomatoes, or even a marinara sauce. And the raviolis are ready to eat, and I'm telling you, people will love these. Whew, that was a lot of information. Hope you got all that down, and I want to see those hands. Well, like I said, if you've enjoyed this DVD, be sure to look for the others. I'm Rebecca Coles. Until next time, keep those little hands dirty.